Okay, the time is now 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Ms. Pollier. Okay, thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Greenberg.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Mako.
Here.
Shapaka.
Here.
Suriano.
Here.
Tamarkin.
Here.
Pollier.
Next agenda item, do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No, sir.
Seeing none. Next agenda item, approval of minutes. The minutes from last meeting we had are not ready yet, so we'll skip over that item. Next agenda item, swearing in applicants and speakers. Recognize the city attorney for swearing in the public.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are now at the public hearing portion of the meeting. The public hearing will operate as follows. Administrative staff will make a presentation or comment on the application. The applicant or their representative may then make a presentation or comment on the application. The applicant has 10 minutes to present, and additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. Public comment will then be open for 3 minutes allowed per speaker. Additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. Speakers must complete a speaker slip and come to the podium and state their name and address. The applicant will then be given 10 minutes to comment. Additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. If there is more than one application pending for a particular address, the presentation on each application may be consolidated and presented as one. At this time, will persons wishing to present testimony this evening please rise and raise your right hand to be sworn in? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, state I do. I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Next agenda item, applications and public comment. We have one application tonight for one church. I'll read the item into the record. We have a design review, DR-0007-2024, to consider a design review application for landscaping for 15 acres at 817 North Hamilton Road. Parcel ID 025-001918, current zoning RID. One church, building C entrance and patio, David Domain applicant. Turn it over to the administration for a presentation. Ms. Kapka.
This is a design review application for Building C at 817 North Hamilton Road, which is the One Church site. Here is a zoning map of the area. The site is zoned Restricted Institutional District. This application was also filed prior to the new zoning ordinance being adopted, so the previous standards and regulations apply. The applicant is requesting approval of a design review for building modifications, patio improvements, and landscaping. This includes new doors and windows, an entry canopy, covered stage and pergola, sidewalk and hardscape improvements, and landscaping. This application does not include any parking modifications or building expansions or new buildings, so only a design review application is required. There are also no variances with this request. Here is a site plan showing the project's boundaries. This application is only for Building C and the surrounding area. It has no impact on the rest of the site. There are a few other applications for this site that are currently under staff review, but they are not at the hearing tonight. Here is some more information on the project. It includes 2 new outdoor patio spaces, one to the north of Building C and one to the south. These outdoor spaces include various seating options, a platform canopy with a stage, and new landscaping. All of the canopies, mechanical equipment, screening, guardrails, and trellis are all made of the same or similar materials. There is an existing playground to the rear of the building that will be removed for sidewalk improvements, ground cover, and future parking. The new accent trims for the building are bronze and white. Here is a site/landscape plan that shows the building and the location of the 2 new outdoor patio spaces. For reference, the front of the building is on the bottom part of the image. It also shows some parking and an access drive to the rear, but those are not included with this application. Here are two side-by-side photos that show the existing condition of the building as well as a rendering. The rendering on the bottom shows the new entry canopy, the doors and windows, and then you can also see one of the outdoor spaces to the rear of the photo. Here are some color elevations that provide some more detail on what the exterior of the building will look like. Here you can see more of the windows with a white trim, as well as the canopies, trellis, and screening that are all made of similar materials. Here is the criteria for the application. The first is the standard design review criteria that must be met for the application to be approved. The second is specific recommendations for Design Review District 3, which this site falls into. These recommendations include a generous use of vegetation, color shall be harmonious with other uses and structures, building materials should create visual interest and diversity, and it also includes a list of preferred materials, which include brick, stone, cement, decorative aluminum, and wood. Staff recommends approval of the design review as submitted. All applicable code requirements and criteria are met without any variances. All of the new proposed materials are compatible with the main church building on the site, as well as the recommendations for Design Review District 3. So with that, I turn things back over to the commission.
Thank you, Ms. Kopka. We'll now open public comment. Would the applicant like to comment? If you could come to the podium, state your name, address, and association with the project.
I'm David Domine. I'm the project leader, expansion director. I forget my title. We just made it up anyway. But yeah, I just wanted to thank Maddie for the presentation. I think she did a great job of explaining what we're trying to do. We're really working hard to improve our campus for not just the use of the church, but the community. I think these patio spaces are a giant improvement in that direction. You can see the appearance side of it. That building's a little bit long in the tooth, and really looking forward to bringing something that's very useful and answering any comments the public might have.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now open it up to the public for comment. I have one speaker slip. Recognize Bob Genton. Again, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Bob Genton. I live at 381 Castle Pines Drive, and I'm the representative spokesperson for the entire Castle Pines Condominium Association. If I may, our comment is basically the patio areas. We are very concerned about the potential for noise pollution as a result of the amplification that could come from the elevated stage that is in the proposal. If you look at the drawings, the proposed stage is a mere less than 60 feet from the property lines of our condominium association, and we have a few residents who live just on the other side of that. We have in the past have had noise issues, but thankfully, admittingly, they were resolved. But we're just afraid that with this, in the past, the noise issues have been confined just to merely Sunday. Now we have the potential of noise issues occurring every day of the week. And given the growth of one church that is impending or planned, that could become a serious problem for our neighbors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to do a rebuttal?
Sure. Thanks for that, Bob. And I think we proved ourselves to be, good neighbors and open to ongoing conversations. Frankly, we don't have any specific programming planned for those stages right now. It is specifically programmed for patio space and gathering space. We are wiring it for speakers, but we're not even installing speakers until we figure out our programming plan. What I imagine our programming plan might include would be maybe one day a week used by the youth on a nice day, and we will obey the noise ordinances as they are now. We do now and committed to do so, and mostly committed to open conversation. And I was talking to a couple of neighbors a few minutes ago. if they have concerns and complaints, we're committed to ongoing conversations and resolving them as they arise.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now close public comment. We'll open it up to questions from the commission. Starting on my left, Mr. Shapaka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. David, can you just stay up there? Thank you. Can you expand upon what kind of activities at the stage? I know you said maybe one day a week, but is this something that'll be after 5 o'clock at night or just during regular business hours?
Well, I think the most important thing I said was we haven't really made programming plans for it. We designed the patio spaces and the stages kind of evolved out of those conversations without any real specific programming plans. It wasn't a giant cost increase to add it at this point. It would be, something that we could have flexibility for in the future. So anything I'm talking about right now is conjecture about what we might use it for in the future. One possible use would be for the youth, and that would be on a Wednesday evening. They meet one evening a week, and it is in the evening. But again, we would have to obey the noise ordinance and be below the sound pressure level required by, I think it's 10 p.m. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but we would have to obey the noise ordinance at that time. It is aiming away from the neighbors, so that would lessen the noise a little bit. It's also too small for our youth group, so I don't see it as being super useful for like a full band. We could imagine using it for weddings, which would probably mostly be during the day, not an evening, and they would be smaller gatherings and mostly speakers and a little bit of sort of wedding style music. But again, imaginations and predictions of the future. And so I think the most important thing I could say is that we would be committed to making sure.
What's the use of Building C now?
It is multi-use, frankly. It's used for a lot of different reasons. The large group meeting is for the youth, and they meet in what's currently the cafeteria. The lower level is currently used for offices. Those offices will be relocated when we finish some of the development plans that you'll see coming forward over the next several weeks and months in the expansion of what we're doing. The spaces are also used for groups and offices. There's a small studio in there, so it's pretty much a multi-use building. Yeah.
In Manny's explanation, I didn't know if I caught it or not. Is there a fire pit or something that's going to be on this patio?
It's furniture right now where we've got some sort of fire pits designated in there. I think the plans currently have it hard piped, and I'm actually going to take out that hard piping and have it as furniture, so like a little propane sort of tabletop. The other pergola that you see that's sort of slatted, that will have electric heaters in it, so if you want to use it when it's a little more traditional Ohio weather, a little cooler, we can use it, 4 or 3 seasons at least. But yeah, there's, the fire pits would be more furniture than anything.
Thanks, David. No more questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shapaka. Ms. Pollier?
Yeah, so my question is, you said you don't have any programming plans just yet. So what are the immediate plans other than the youth groups or the youth at your church using it? What are the immediate plans then for this?
A patio space and just outdoor gathering space for mostly during the daytime. We have groups that meet there in the evenings, so I can imagine some groups using it as patio space in the evenings too. I think they're usually done by 9.
What groups meet during the day? Like what types of groups? I guess I'm just.
When I say during the day, it might be during the weekend more than anything. The office staff uses them during the day. The office staff currently they make a patio when there isn't one. They'll create a space, they'll move a table out to to a shaded spot and, enjoy some outdoor space. Mm-hmm. So our office staff will use it. We currently have, less than 30 people on staff, so it's just gathering space.
How will you monitor the noise and make sure that you are in compliance with the noise ordinances? I know, with different groups using the space or different activities there, I am sympathetic to the concerns of the HOA in that regard. So how will you go about monitoring, just so that they don't have to continuously contact you and say, hey, you know, this is too loud or this exceeds the requirements? How will you monitor that?
That's actually a very good question. We don't have formal systems for monitoring it, but we could certainly create some, especially a year or so from now when we put a sound system in, we can actually at that same time
But even
create some.
before that, even before you put a sound system in, just in general, you have, you know, a youth group out there. I mean, kids, you know,
Yeah.
they make noise. Are they out there, are they supervised?
Yes,
How-
of
How does
course.
that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's all supervised activity.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then my last question, is this just to be used, I assume like during the winter months, this probably won't be used, it's just
Not as much. I
the
mean,
3 seasons that
Yeah,
can be tolerated to be outside,
right,
basically?
exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
Okay.
We have some, you know, 12 months where we have availability to use something even in Ohio, but it would just be when the weather cooperates.
okay. I don't have any further questions, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Pauly. Mr. Hicks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Dominy,
Yeah.
my experience with having the one church in front of Planning Commission is that you have been very cooperative with your neighbors, and this is a good example of how a community and a business can work together to solve problems. So I definitely think that your comments have been supported by your past actions. So thank you for that. You are open to comments and concerns and have addressed them in our past applications. So hope that will continue.
Yes.
Now, most of my questions have already been asked and answered. But when I'm envisioning the stage, I'm envisioning Edison Brewery, not suggesting that you go there, but I do.
If you're inviting me, I'm all in.
We'll talk about that. So that's a smaller stage, but it can put out a lot of sound.
Yeah.
So do you envision that area being used by non-church groups?
That's an interesting question. No, we don't have any plans
Bands.
at all
Okay.
for that. It's interesting. We have plans for that in other expansion, because we're about to create a really amazing auditorium, you know, bigger than anything else we have in Gahanna that we can make available to as a venue. But this wouldn't be an example of that, in my opinion. It's pretty limited, pretty small. Like we're putting some infrastructure in place for some future sound, but it's not going to be, you know, a stage quality thing. It would be anything you would do would be portable, you know, setup or something that would be smaller by nature. It just doesn't have to be that big. It's not trying to throw sound very far. That whole stage is only 50 feet wide, so it's not, or 40. It's not very big.
Thank you for that. And I know that it's hard to mitigate that issue, like in your past applications.
Yeah.
You mitigated some concerns with landscaping and
Yeah.
whatnot. So
Yeah.
I know this will be hard to mitigate if it becomes a distraction or disruptive. So
No, I think we'd have to manage it. We wouldn't be able to mitigate it nearly as much as manage it and just change things. We did some hard changes on the sound complaints we had before. We made some design changes of our sound system. We made some design changes of you know, the sound abatement in that building. So we've done a lot physically to manage that. I agree with you. This would be very difficult to do. It would have to be managed, not mitigated.
all right, thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hicks. Mr. Greenberg?
Hi there. Do you have lighting out there, and is there extra lighting going to be put in for that patio space?
It's just almost like accent lighting, like you would call landscape lighting. It's all fairly low. So it's not like parking lot
So it
lighting.
won't impact the condominiums?
I don't think so, no. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think it will, especially since we're going to shut them off, you know, like we do with the parking lot lights. They're shut down
And
even at my bedtime, which is fairly early.
Do you have, is there a regular process for the condominium HOA to contact one church if there is an issue and they have concerns, and how that can get resolved on a regular basis? Is that a procedure that's in place now?
Yes, we have an info at one church, at one dot church. We also set up a special one, neighbors. I can't remember exactly what it is, but we have one specifically for the neighbors while we're going through the expansion that we've shared with all the neighbors. And many of them have my cell phone, so we have lots of ways to connect.
So if there was a wedding and it was getting a little bit crazy out there, they could call and
Yeah, yeah.
that could be addressed?
I've gotten, that has happened, yes. It's not from these folks, but from some other neighbors who were down the hill. We had an event going on, and we were actually in the back parking lot, and they set up a portable system, and they were aiming it down the hill.
Okay.
So it was really designed to make noise for the neighbors. So I ran over and actually corrected it right away, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberg. Mr. Siriano?
Yeah, I think a lot of my questions have already been answered, but I'm more just curiosity. Has the stage canopy been vetted or reviewed by a structural engineer?
Yes.
Okay. I was curious because it looks like that's good.
Yeah.
I just was,
No.
there are 2 points of contact on the, going to that canopy, so I was curious how it's,
Hey, all three have been. There was, we had to split the application into 3 separate structural applications, because there's one for the entry one, the one for the stage, and then the one for that separate pergola. All structural engineers. Yeah.
great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Siriano. Mr. Markin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple questions. So the playground's being removed. Is it being relocated?
No, we may put a different kind of playground in with the landscaping of the total development, but there's nothing in that location.
And that will be a future application.
Yes.
So what goes where the playground is?
Future, what's shown there, and Maddie explained, we'll be bringing future applications for.
So right now, it's just playground comes down, nothing goes in.
Right.
So the application talked a little bit about fencing. Where does fencing go in this application? Where are you at fencing?
Or the fencing in this application is the, almost, I don't want to call it privacy fencing, but the decorative fencing that goes around some of the existing, there's a transformer and some air handling equipment that's kind of going around the stage. And there's also quite a bit of topography to deal with. So we have some fencing that also kind of doubles as rails for safety purposes because it's too high. But the railing that's talked about, or the fences that are talked about in this application, are really just screening fencing that are on the property. We have a fence between us and the neighbors now. There's a fence between us and the neighbors now.
But what's in this application is new screening to screen old equipment.
To screen, yeah, existing
The
equipment.
equipment's there,
Yeah,
now
it's
you're going to
all-
add a patio, so you need to screen it.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Maddie, can you throw up the first picture you showed, the side-by-side, the before and after? So the after picture has a big welcome sign. I assume that is not part of the application. That would involve a signage variance, which we've dealt with you guys in the past for signage variances.
Thank you. We'll make sure it is.
Yeah, so,
Yeah. We have space in the, but yes, we'll make sure it fits within the variance because we have a variance that,
so you have a variance.
We
You
have some
have to see, I guess,
capacity.
work with the city to make sure.
Yes, thank
See if there's space available,
yes, thank you.
or if you need to come back to us for that welcome sign.
Yep, thank you for that.
It looks big,
It does look big, you're right.
but all your signs are big.
We got a lot to say.
And now, Maddie, can we go back to the other picture? So most of what you're applying for here is going to be in the front of the building, a little bit to the north, a little bit to the south of the main door, and then a canopy over the door. The stage is to the north, the residents are to the south,
The residents are to the north as well. These residents are to the
or
north.
to the north.
Yes.
Okay,
So they're behind the stage, they'd be backstage.
okay.
We have neighbors to the south, but they're a long way from there, yeah. They're,
Okay.
maybe that, you had the Google image, maybe Maddie, if you want to see that. That's too far out. Never mind. Yeah, the neighbors to the south would be through the existing main auditorium, from that stage. They're a long way away. These neighbors are all to the north.
The south is the darker green
Yes.
here with the street going up the middle.
Yep, there's a cul-de-sac back there, and, yep, exactly right.
And the condos are the brown.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Markin. I just have one quick question for Mr. Roth. In general, what are the noise ordinances of the city that would be pursuant to what we're talking about here tonight?
I don't know what it says specifically, but I believe it deals with noise crossing property lines that, you know, at a measurable level, and then hours. But I'm not sure. I've never had a noise ordinance case in the 4+ years I've been here.
And as a follow-up, if there was an enforcement, it would go through the police or code enforcement or?
That is in our criminal code, so it would be the police.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
I know you're not asking me, but the police can actually come out and measure it. They have a sound pressure level meter.
Yeah, I
They
think
can
they would
measure it.
use a decibel level, a decibel meter at the property line type thing.
Yep.
Okay.
He's exactly right.
So it would again, it would go through the criminal procedure if it got to
Right.
that point?
They would, it's under our city code, so it would be like a criminal charge brought through mayor's court.
Okay. Good enough. Okay, any other questions from the commission?
Yeah, Mr. I have one
Mr.
for
Chapeka?
for Matty. So as we're looking at the map up here, the Castle Pine is the dark brown. Not that this is a general question, nobody stood up. Is there anybody else here tonight that's from the green area, to the other portion to the north or the south? And if you did want to speak, you're going to have to do it, fill out a speaker slip. Well, I'm going to look over here, so if you're in favor of it, now raise a hand. If you're not in favor of it, just to get a feel for somebody else on the edge of the property.
So really, really quick, that is all Castle Pines. Just in the old zoning map, it had 2 separate zonings. So in the new map, all of it is zoned the same.
Thank you for the clarification.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Certainly. Ms. Pelley?
Can I ask a question to the resident that spoke? I'm sorry, Bob, what's your last
Mr.
name,
Gunton?
Bob? I apologize, I forgot. I just want to know if you could describe something that you alluded to when you were speaking. You said you did have an incident with the church where there was some kind of a noise violation, but that they were able to resolve it for you. Could you just describe kind of in a little bit more detail what that was and how you went about resolving it?
Sure. On Sunday, during the times of their services, they would have, I guess a better phrase would be like warm-up music. And they would have their amplifiers projecting out into the parking lot. At such a loud point, you'd hear this constant bass going ba-boom, ba-boom. That's the better way to describe it. And it would project into the parking lot and into our entire neighborhood. So we've had some discussions with Dave, making them aware of it. We've even had one resident call the police to take some readings to make sure they were getting in compliance. And then they realized that those bases out into the parking lot were inappropriate, and they've cut those amplifiers out. We still hear a low, moderate bass. Now, that's coming from within their building. It's to the point where we're used to it. It's acceptable. We have no issues with it at this time.
Just one other follow-up question. When you had these issues and you brought them to Dave's attention, were they well received? Did you feel like your opinions or your concerns were respected by them?
Yes, after a while, yes.
What do you mean by after a while?
Well, initially, it was like, okay, we hear you, we'll look into it. It would continue, then we'd bring it up again, and then it was resolved.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Pelley. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve DR-0007-2024?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for design review application number DR 0007-2024 for approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Chapaka. Do we have a second?
Second, Markin.
We have a second by Mr. Tamarkin. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll be in favor of the application. We had a lot of discussion around, mitigation of potential nuisances, but it does meet the criteria that was put before us for design review criteria. And we've been assured that Pastor Ford's not going to start a rock band on the stage, so I'll be in support.
Mr. Chair, I'll also be in support of this application, noting what my fellow commissioner, Mr. Hicks, noted. This does meet the criteria for design review. I think the structures that are being put forward in terms of the design are appropriate as canopies, as hardscape, softscape, et cetera. So I will be in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Shano.
Mr. Chair, I'll also be in favor. I think it does meet the criteria for the design review, and I think one church has proved over the years that they are, they're a business, they're a big business, they're a big church. I guess they're the biggest in Gahanna, but they are also a good neighbor and work hard to try to be a good neighbor. And adding these outdoor spaces will just require them to be aware and be that much better of a neighbor. So we hope that continues.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't have anything else to add to this, so clerk, please call the roll.
Chapaka.
Yes.
Tamarkin.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Mako.
Yes.
Suriano.
Yes.
Pollyea.
No.
Greenberg.
Yes.
Motion passes. Our next agenda item is unfinished business, which I believe we don't have any. And I don't believe we have any new business. Going on to official reports, Assistant City Attorney.
Nothing to report at this time, Mr. Chair.
Since there's no Director of Planning, Mr. Stang, would you be the senior planning staff member tonight?
That is correct. I'm just filling in for Michael for this evening. So for the planning director's report, just two quick items. The first is that on May 1st, the new zoning code went into effect. We have a couple applications that have filed under the new ordinance, so you will likely see some of those in the coming weeks, coming months, some of the next meetings here. We do still have a number of applications that were already filed under the previous zoning, like tonight's, so you will have a little bit of a mix there, but you'll start to see some of the new ones. And alongside that, the planning department has also started to implement a new permitting software called OpenGov. So planning and zoning went live on May 1st, and our building department will be going live a week from today on May 15th. So we are very excited for that. We're excited to bring you some new applications here in the future. And with that, that's all I have to report.
Okay. And then also, moving on, anything from council?
Nope, no council report.
I do not see Madam Mayor here, so I have no other official reports. Any correspondence or actions?
No, sir.
Poll members for comments. Mr. Chapaka?
No comments.
Ms. Pollyea?
No comments tonight, thank you.
Mr. Hicks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Stang, I heard a rumor about you. And are you being punished tonight by being here because you're leaving for another job?
I don't believe I'm being punished.
Okay.
It was just happenstance, but the rumor is correct. I did accept another job, so I will be leaving the city of Gahanna. So
Congratulations on that.
thank you. I appreciate it. It's an exciting opportunity for me. I'll be the planning director for the city of Powell. It's very unfortunate to be leaving Gahanna because you all have a great staff here. I've enjoyed the time that I've had to work with this community, so I've learned a lot, even though it's been a short amount of time. So I do want to thank everybody for letting me be here and letting me fill in for Michael. So it's not an easy shoe to fill for him, but I'm happy to try.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Mr. Greenberg?
No comments.
Mr. Serrano?
Nope, no comments.
Mr. Tamarkin? My only comment is that at our next scheduled meeting on the 22nd, I will not be here. I think for probably the first time in my life, I'm going on a well-deserved vacation, so.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're closing. You're supposed to be the last to talk, so my apologies. I do want to return the favor and acknowledge that Mr. Mako has completed his sixth and final round of chemotherapy, so congratulations to you. Go take that vacation. You deserve it.
Yes, we rang the bell over the weekend, so life is good. Okay, move for adjournment?
So moved.
We're adjourned.